Awesome. Thank you very much. Sorry about the technical mind, everybody that might have been trying to get a hold on that number, the 07187. Remind you at the end of this toolbox talk, we are currently for the inconvenience, but we are still available. Please continue, as Sean mentioned, sending in those that you might need or information that you are. Thank you for the information that was sent last week surrounding that in SA. So if any, please just send through your email address to Sean tab or the chat tab. Write your email information that we have received. It's not come attendees out there. They've got some information. It may also assist you with designing policies when it comes to the use and also the zero narcotics and cannabis use. Well, without taking too much of your time this morning, let's get right in reporting a handout for you. So again, please just download that handout. This is going to show you how we are going to do a flow chart of incident reporting, as well as having records of these as well. But incidents and accidents also are governed by the law and how we report, record, as well as investigate these. Might have lost you there for a second. According to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Section 24 states that there are certain incidents and accidents that may occur within our organizations that must be reported to the Department of Labor. Now, if you just take a look through that, and you can download the OSH Act right from the internet, certain incidents and accidents that occur, even when a person perhaps is not injured, needs to be reported to the Department of Labor. Now, many do not know how this procedure goes about. How do you take the information that you have derived from incidents and accidents and give it out to the Department of Labor? And how are you supposed to record this as an employer? Well, we'll go through that today, and that's why we're having this session of incidents and accidents. Now, yes, we are targeting you as employers, managers, those who are actually doing the recording and reporting of incidents and accidents, but the majority is actually going to be pointed at the employees. And the reason for this is you are more likely to be involved in an incident and accident. And there are certain procedures that you need to follow in order to give the correct information, keep records of the incident and accident, but also receive the treatment that you deserve as somebody who has suffered a work-related incident. So let's go through, first of all, the law again on Section 24. If you are a FEM or Department of Labor member, there are specific documents that need to be completed when an incident or accident occurs. And this is generally when we are taking somebody to the hospital. Now, there are different types of incidents, and we'll touch base on that as well. But the incidents that we are talking about as Section 24 incidents are incidents where somebody has been pretty seriously injured or even had to take time off work for a specific period of time, if they are not going to be back at work for a specific period of time, if they went to the hospital because of a serious injury, even if there was a uncontrolled release of a substance or a vessel under pressure at your workplace and nobody was injured, that incident still needs to be reported. And we'll explain to you why. What is the purpose of these reports? Yes, from the government side, it is twofold. Firstly, they want to see how dangerous or what risk category your company falls in, and if too many employees are being injured in your industry specifically, or maybe not your industry, but you as a company, they might start questioning the work ethics and the health and safety that is governing your company. So it's very good for them to keep tabs on you, but at the same time, it is the prevention of further incidents and accidents. And really, this is the crux of the matter this morning. The reason why we are discussing how to on reporting of incidents and accidents is to get to the root cause of why it happens and then prevent it from happening again. Now, any document from the Federated Employees Mutual Fund or FEM, as well as the Department of Labor, for the incident reporting procedure to these institutes can always be downloaded from the relevant websites, and these can be kept digitally. But as a suggestion, and you'll see it there, it's got a little star, please keep a completed copy of these forms in your file. Now, any safety specification coming from one of your clients will require you to at least keep copies of these in your health and safety file or in your company vehicle, so that should an incident or accident occur, you've got these documents on hand. Now, the reason why I am suggesting a completed copy of these documents is oftentimes, first of all, you might not have all the information of the company on hand at any given time, but perhaps we find you in a vehicle and there's an incident or accident that has occurred on site, and there's nobody else from your company or organization on that site. Yes, the safety file will be able to give us certain information, but if your documents are already filled out with your employer's information, your contact details for the employer, uh, so it's not specific to the employee themselves, because maybe you're not going to be injured, but at least the company's information, which generally does not change within the organization. And thereafter, we will be able to get the specific individual's information, their ID numbers, etc. So always try and complete as much of the information on these documents, and you can do this digitally as well through a web-based reader that can actually edit these documents. Once this information is in, please keep a few documents or a few copies of these documents in your safety file as well as in your company vehicle. It is a very good suggestion to have this directly next to your letter of good standing. The reason for this is when we take a person into the hospital in order to get medical treatment for an injury on duty, remember, they are going to check whether you are in a good standing with either FEM or the Department of Labor. So please keep a valid and up-to-date copy of this in your files as well as in your company vehicles. There's nothing new of the specification from the safety officers asking for one copy in the safety file. Why not have 3 or 4? Just keep them near you, keep them in the car, perhaps keep them with personal documents, and then maybe have an extra set in the file so that you can take it out of the file to go to the hospital and one set still remains behind. Now, this is not a requirement, but it is just a suggestion to make it a lot easier and smoother for you. So what documents do you need as a company? In fact, even as employees, when you need to report or record or even investigate incidents and accidents, certain requirements, again, from the law have been set out. According to your general administrative regulations, and this is Regulation 8 and Regulation 9, there are certain requirements from the company. One of the documents there is an Annexure 1 document. Again, this can also just be downloaded from the internet. If you're having difficulty with that, drop us a mail or send us your email asking us for that specific document, and we can get that through to you as well. This is just a 2-page document that needs to be filled out when a Section 24 incident occurs. So we're not talking about minor, near miss, or first aid injuries at the workplace, but we're talking about Section 24 incidents and accidents. This document must be kept in your company files for at least 3 years, and it has to go into a register of all previous or current incidents and accident statistics for your company. In other words, every single company in South Africa should have at least 3 years worth of incident statistics due to having an Annexure 1 form. And this ranges from all of your Section 24 requirements. Now we are coming to something that is not always a legal requirement. Yes, keeping a first aid or minor register report is required by law. In other words, with every first aid box that is given out for at least 5 employees or more, this first aid box needs to have a register one of what is inside the actual first aid kit that needs to be inspected periodically, and then another register which the first aider or the person in charge of that first aid box needs to fill in for why that plaster or bandage or certain uh, piece of equipment in that first aid box was used. So somebody cut their finger open with a Stanley knife and a plaster was put on. They didn't need to go to the hospital, but it's still an incident and accident. Now, this again does not have to be reported to the Department of Labor, but you are still needing a specific report, and that is the minor injury or first aid register that will be in your first aid box. But near miss reports is something that is not often kept. And the reason for this is it happens so often that most companies just feel that it's too much of paperwork to be done. Most people think it's just really not important, to be honest. They think, well, nothing actually happened, so why would we need to keep a report or record of near misses that actually happened? Well, we'll explain it to you in a minute. But according to Section 24, there are incidents and accidents that must be recorded and then reported to the Department of Labor. And then these obviously must be uh, investigated according to your general administrative regulations, and a record must be kept in the form of Annexure 1. But when it comes to first aid and near miss, this is the how to part of this entire procedure. Very, very important. Prepare. We know that we are going to face incidents and accidents in the future, but they are preventable if we prepare ourselves for them. Now, we're not saying that we can prepare ourselves for every specific event, but what we can do is prevent the reoccurrence of certain incidents and accidents, and then prepare ourselves for the reporting and recording of incidents and accidents that are unforeseen. So first, start by identifying what you will need to keep track of all incidents that occur in the workplace. A near miss reporting system, a first aid or minor injury record and register that needs to also correlate to the first aid box that you are using, and then all the documents for a reportable incident, such as your WCL1s or WCL2s or your FEM forms for a injury on duty related incident and accident. So all of these requirements set out certain documentation that must be in place. But what are your company's policies and procedures for these, ranging from near misses, minor, first aid cases, and Section 24 incidents? What is your flow chart? In other words, how do you start once an incident occurs, whether it is a near miss, a minor, a major, or a fatality? Where do you report it? How do you record these? Who do you report it to? And what type of response needs to take place for each of these specific incidents? Then the investigation phase. Who's going to do the root cause analysis of why the incident occurred? And how are you going to prevent this incident and accident from occurring again? Well, let us ask, do you have a policy for near misses, minor, major, and fatalities? The reason for this is it's going to assist you in preparing a procedure for reporting as well as recording and investigating incidents and accidents. Obviously, more time will be spent on major and fatalities compared to near misses. However, we want to give the adequate amount of time to each of these. The reason being, as we will see in the next slide, is now let us take an example. A worker was lifting a geyser when one of the four things happened. Number one, he or she slipped and almost fell to the floor, but they got their footing back and didn't get injured. This would be classified as a near miss. Now, why would we spend a bit of time on investigating and reporting on this type of incident? Well, let's say you have a company that has 10 teams going out. So 10 teams of two, you have 20 employees, and all 10 teams go out during the course of the week. And only one of those teams on a Tuesday morning like today almost slipped and fell, but got their footing and didn't get injured. So only one near miss out of 20 people. But I'd like to ask you, how many plumbers are there in South Africa? And let us say it only happened once to only one of their teams in each company. Now, I know that on the database, we have 6,500 plumbers in South Africa on the database. There could be more, but we have got a minimum of 6,500 plumbers. Well, what does that mean? That means every week there was a possibility for 6,500 near misses. Now, what could have happened? Well, let us take a look at the next scenario. Nothing happened in the first one, but perhaps they couldn't manage to carry the weight of that geyser when they slipped. And then it fell, it dropped to the ground, and it injured their foot and ankle. Now you've got a minor or a first aid injury here. You could have perhaps not seriously injured it, but you would have had quite a small bruise. Perhaps you needed to isolate it for a little bit. Perhaps it didn't go as bad as a fracture or injuring it to the degree that you needed to get to the hospital, but you might have needed to sit down for a while and take your weight off of that foot. And now you report that. But what if it was serious? Or perhaps it was like scenario 3 or 4. They lost their balance and they fell, but the geyser fell against their chest and cracked 2 of their ribs. Now they land up in hospital. Or even worse, they weren't using 2 hands or carrying it correctly, and the geyser fell to a worker below, killing that worker. Well, now we ask ourselves, how did this escalate from a near miss to a possible fatality? Well, you would agree, any incident and accident that can happen, we have zero control over. What we do have control over is our preparation before the fact. Now, when we get near miss reports on somebody almost falling to the floor, we then investigate to see that it was a slippery floor. They didn't have the correct PPE. They were working incorrectly, or the environment around where they were working was not suitable for them to work. Perhaps it was raining. All of that information will assist us in stopping a future incident and accident where it does get dropped and hurt somebody's foot in an instance. With 6,500 plumbers in South Africa, the possibility of one of them falling and getting their ribs cracked or breaking a leg or even falling onto someone else and killing them is a real possibility. So yes, in your own company, we want to stop minor or even first aid cases, but the ultimate goal is the prevention of of incidents and accidents is really in your power. It has been said that hindsight is 20/20 vision. And if you agree with that, well then you have the ability to prevent incidents and accidents. So why not start preparing for these now? We need to obey the law, yes. We want to ensure that the correct records and reporting to the authorities is done. But remember, when you have incident reports from near misses all the way up to what the requirement is from the Department of Labor, You also have evidence to work out why the incident took place and then put measures in place to prevent it from happening again. Near misses generally lead to first aid cases. So that is why we say incidents and accidents can be avoidable. But really, it starts with a good policy, procedure, and communication of incidents and accidents. Something new to you? Well, why not reach out to us and get the help? Safety@iopsa.org, info@ohss.co.za, or please WhatsApp call us on 071 875 2070. Now, if you have been trying to call that number, just as a reminder, we are not currently in cell service on that number, but we are still available on email as well as on WhatsApp. SMSs unfortunately does not work either, but WhatsApp is still working on this number, so please reach out to us if needed. Otherwise, just drop us a mail. And if you still want to get involved in the training that we only have a few seats left in, I think next week we still have a couple of seats left, which is out in Gauteng, as well as in October for Gauteng, and then we are moving through to Cape Town, which is more the Knysna, George area in November. So if you'd like some more information on that, or you are from that area, please reach out to us. You can mail chris@ohss.co.za, safety@iopsa.org, or info@ohss.co.za. We would like to say thank you very much for joining us this morning. Too much of your time. We like to keep these sessions short, but please, we look forward to next week's session on PPE, or personal protective equipment. How can you protect yourself from these near miss or minor injuries that are always occurring? PPE is the last resort, but there are certain things that we can do that are requirements by law, but also that should be best practice or common practice in your company. And we'll go through the topic of PPE next week. So without taking too much of your time, we would like to say thank you very much to our sponsors, FEM and IOPSA, as well as to SIOSH, as well as you, Sean, and then we'll hand it over back to you as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We have got a couple of questions here, which I will get into immediately. The first question reads, "Hi Chris, we are members of RMA and not WCA. We have endless problems with hospitals not accepting RMA forms. Would it be a problem if we completed a WCA form for the hospital purposes and then thereafter the RMA claim forms regarding, just complete the RMA claim forms thereafter?"
Well, that is a very good idea. Reason being is hospitals might just be more familiar with that type of document, and then you can just keep the two documents together. RMA, obviously, the Rand Mutual, they will have their format. So I would suggest that you always have their documents as well, and then maybe send it along with a copy of the WCL forms with them, telling them, maybe give them a brief explanation on why the hospital didn't accept it, but they did accept the WCL form. The problem there is they might just try and get a hold of the Department of Labor and not RMA for the actual funds to be paid over for that medical. So a very difficult one. I would suggest maybe speaking to RMA about it, telling them which hospital it was that you went through to, and it is their responsibility to obviously ensure that all hospitals understand the policies and procedures from their side. But yes, very good idea to use those documents. If you get away with it, please let us know if that is working for you, and then let us know which hospitals it is, and perhaps we can use our contacts to assist you in getting the correct information to these hospitals as well. Thanks, Sean.
All right, perfect. And then the second question we've got here reads, regarding the first aid boxes, is it necessary to complete a first aid box checklist monthly, or can it be the first aid logbook rather than checked monthly?
So it all depends on the industry that you're in. When I say industry, it's not just plumbing. So if you're a plumber, but you are just doing basic maintenance, you're not going onto a construction site, well, then the requirement is every 3 months that you actually check your first aid box, and it must be refilled straight after its use. So you can just use that logbook, and that is generally done within 3 months. But if you take a look at the construction regulations, and especially when you are on a construction site, your entire safety file needs to be audited every month. And that is why the requirement is there then for a monthly inspection of your first aid box should you have 5 employees or more, or even if the requirements of the safety spec points out that you have to have a first aid box on site even for 1 employee, then the monthly register will come into play. If you're not on a construction site, then you still have the 3-month option as well. Thanks, Sean.